How are you doing? My name is Janine, and I'm just basically want to say welcome. If this is the first time that you've seen me on this channel here. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the financial arena of things in a very, very high perspective. I was sitting there, just paying attention to a lot of different reports in a lot of different channels, and I'm kind of piecing this stuff together, right? We've all known that, why did they start changing our food? Why did they start breaking it down and just giving us crap in our food? Well, obviously, it was to stretch their dollar and make them richer. But behind that, I started to realize something. I'm going to talk a little bit about like using ice cream, for example. A lot of people will see a lot of memes out there, especially out on TikTok, and basically say, this doesn't even taste like ice cream anymore. I left this particular product on the counter overnight. I came out and it was still solid. It wasn't even melted. There's certain gum ingredients in here that holds that look, or they're using some sort of high-speed machines to whip it up, and you're thinking that you're getting the cream in it, and you really are not. The technology is unbelievable what they could do with food products. So I started to think a lot about this. And while I was watching some of these things, and you can find all this stuff out here on YouTube or Rumble or whatever, I started to realize that, I also watch, before I go there, let me jump over to Catherine Fitz. If you guys have seen her, she's been on a lot of shows out there. Solari, I think, is her name of her channel. She's also out on Telegram. It's the Solari Report. I saw a lot of her most current things out there, which caught my attention. So basically, she talks a lot about private equity, and that has a lot to do with why our food has changed, how greedy some of the owners have gotten with the products that are out there because they want more money in their product, right? Well, let's just kind of step back here for a minute, and let's go all the way back to. I just want to share the screen with you and talk a little bit about this if you're interested in how we got here. And it's important to know how we actually got here so that if we want to be able to stop this, we could stop it in the future. Okay, so one of the things that, let me just kind of blow this up a little bit more. This is from 1995 to 2024. So the last year, let's just say the last year is not even included in this particular. Why am I here talking about this? And if you guys could also let me too, I'm going to open up the chat. I think I'm having a lot of internet problems, and if you could just let me know when I'm losing you or whatnot, and that'll help me out because I'm starting to see something here with my internet a lot lately, which I'm in the process of switching over during Mercury retrograde. Oh my God. All right. Anyways, on to this stuff. So this historical employment of the private equity corporate companies. Now, I can only take my own experience and talk about this because I witnessed this. I was part of it. I was at the 1995 was what the peak was. In 1995, a lot of companies, for example, U.S. Robotics. I don't know if that was the year that it started to change things up, if you will. They had an analog, they had modems, they had all the stuff that came. I think it was first designed. No, I'm getting kind of confused whether or not Motorola owned it at one time. The U.S. Robotics was out of Skokie, Illinois. I remember that was where their headquarters were, and they were huge in the modem. That sound that you used to get, that analog sound that you used to get on your modem when you started it up, and you got mail, right? So with that said, I started to notice that what I did as I call it as a programmer, but I was specified in a particular application. And basically, it was called electronic data interchange. And what does that mean? Without getting very technical, is I would take a company that basically sold shoes. They knew nothing about computers. And then I would take another company that someone like a little old Walmart, and it was little at the time, and basically says, I need to sell some shoes. I need some people that are making shoes out there. And how do I get them into my store in a timely manner? Okay, this is going to tie into our foods also, but I'm just using shoes as an example because I've always used this example. So basically, they would find somebody like myself. I was working for this other company, and so what we would do is we'd match up their data. Right, you take a purchase order to a purchase order, and you basically make it electronic, simple. Okay, that'll do. And then of course, from there you had to do the invoices and so on and so forth. But they also everything became very, very competitive at that time. And because it was so competitive, so basically you wanted shoes with shoelaces, then they're making shoes with no shoelaces. Then they were started saying, okay, I'm going to eliminate this, and the shoes weren't as great. This is where I'm kind of going with the food industry is also the same way. And then, of course, China is a whole different show, if you will. In another time, we could always talk about that. But this whole private equity starts out with, okay, I'm selling shoes. I'm doing great. I'm local. I'm out of New York. I'm all over New York City, upstate New York. Now I got to get my shoes over to Benton, Arkansas, or Bentonville, Arkansas, in a store, in a headquarters of Walmart. They're growing like crazy. Everybody knows this name, Walmart, and you're going to have to mass produce these shoes. How am I going to do that? I don't have the equity to do that. So there's something that comes out. They have these investors out there, right? And you have these people that have the money. These are the billionaires that actually have the money. Some of them may not even have the money. They just know how to deal in money. And a perfect example is that, which I saw on Catherine Fitt's site, um, is a movie out there that I know a lot of you know about. And I'm going to see if I can just find this here for you guys here in a minute. Bear with me 1 second here. I should have had this bookmarked. Here it is. I know you'll recognize this. All right, so this particular movie is all about a particular man who knows how to invest other people's money. And so let's see here. Does it go on from there? No, I got to go back. 1 second. Sorry about this. Sorry, this thing is really jumping all over the place. I didn't do this this morning on here. So right here we go. So it's Julia Roberts, and basically, she's playing a role, but she's actually working with a guy who knows how to take the money, and he buys up these companies, and then he could buy a part of the company, if you will. And let's just say, for example, he's buying this Chicago restaurant, or it's basically they make fast food, and they're trying to grow. They're trying to grow very quickly. And they basically said, well, I'll tell you what, we'll buy a part of your company, but we're going to have to change some things. You're spending a lot of money on mozzarella. It's an Italian restaurant. You're spending too much on various types of cheeses, and you're the way that you package things up, that we can cut that down. So this is how things start to change, because you've got somebody who's a millionaire who all of a sudden wants to become a millionaire, and then he's also losing his soul in all of this. And so this is what I basically experienced when I was working in the corporate world. And basically, what I would be doing is taking somebody's system off of some another systems and put it in, let's say, an investor. And I worked for a lot of companies. U.S. Robotics was one of them. I remember this as clear as mud. But I do remember this. They were saying, we're going to take this company, we're going to dissect it up. One modems are going to go here, analog will go over this way, and whatever else that they were recreating. And I think were getting into a part that they sold off to Motorola, which I don't even know if exists today. But in any case, this is what was happening. So companies that we knew as, like take ice cream, like Breyers, for example, when it first came out on the market, and everybody knows because it's all over the internet, and this is nothing new that I'm saying, and I'm not spreading anything that is not true out here, is that you can find it for yourself. There's ingredients out there that will, let me see here. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, there we go. You can actually read the ingredients on the Breyers ice cream, and it's filled with a lot of things called gum. And I don't know what those things are. And if you look at it very closely, I'm going to read it to you. It says Breyers quality since 1866 chocolate chip cookie dough. Nowhere on here does it state that it is ice cream. Okay, and when did this happen? If I go back to my particular chart, that's not it. If I go back to my chart that I had up here, with Catherine Fitz, and this is a really good private equity. If you want to find it, just go and look up her website. So this is what was happening. So in 1995, you had a lot of people that were basically saying, "Oh, okay, I can grow my business. I can become, a multimillionaire from a millionaire, and all I have to do is change some of my products, but it'll be still getting out there. I'll be in supply chains and be mass produced. I'm in. I'm all in." But the problem is that the people, some of the people cared. They would pick up the ingredients and they would read it and say, "This is not real ice cream. I should only be reading three or four, maybe five ingredients about ice cream." Right. And so what was actually happening from 1995 all up into 2024, you went through for maybe 3,500, let's just say billionaires, 35 worldwide, 3,500 billionaires to whatever it might be today. And it's off the charts how many billionaires are out there because everybody has gone this route with this. And let's see here. So this is a billionaires list, and these are the tops and where they rank. And just by looking at this list, might not be able to see it real well, what their net worth are. So you've got and the rank is really important because you got anywhere between, let's start at the level of 30 to 35. Steven Schwartzman, Blackstone. That's the firm. We all know about that one, right? His role was co-founder and CEO. Then you would have at ranking at 65 to 75, Henry Kravis, co-founder and co-executive chairman, 15 to 19 billion. And Blackstone was at 43 to 59 billion. The firm is KKR. A lot of you may notice this. And then Apollo, Leon Black, 12 to 13 billion, co-founder. He departed in 2021. Says, "I got enough money, I'm out." And that was ranking at 90 to 110. And then if you go all the way down to the bottom, the last one there, ranking at 350 to 400 was Daniel D. Anello, the Carlyle Group co-founder, 3 to 4 billion. He's not making a lot of money, but this is where we got caught up. We, the people, basically were losing out. While they got rich, we started to get cheaper and cheaper shit. And of course, eventually Walmart decides that they're going to sell out and then go to China. And then we just got like crap. There was no more cotton in our clothes. There was none of what if you're as old as I am, and there's, I'm at the tail end of the boomers. Okay. So basically, we knew what was good. The boomers are probably the last ones that know what is good at this current time. We know what it's like to not have all these electronics, right? There's a positive and there's a negative with that. But we are also the ones that could actually see where we came from to where we're at right now. This is what I'm trying to say here too, is we have to know where we are actually going. But this world is changing, and we're going to start seeing a lot of changes in the near future, and it's all going to be very positive. We don't have to be fearful and have the doom and gloom out there, but we also do have to understand that a lot of these companies basically just sold out. This is a list that I think Catherine uses religiously because she was a part of the HUD and with the first administration of Bush in 1990 to 1994. So she knew where all the monies were going. But if you take a look at this, in 1993, Jeffrey Epstein, his first visit, 17 total, to the Clintons' White House, arranged by Bob Rubin. All right. And then after that, 1994, you had the feds, and they buy the BIS shares. So now you've got Epstein in front of all of this. And we all know that Epstein is part of blackmail, big time, of every political Hollywood, whatever you want to call it. You're seeing it all over the place. You cannot see it at this point. But really, the crux of all of this has been the financial blackmailing that he has done, and he is the expert in laundering money. I've made this statement a couple of times, and I'm repeating it again. So if you really want to understand what is going on, then it's like I think Buckshot one time mentioned, it's like a web. It's right. It's multi-layered out there. So, people are only getting certain layers. They're just going to hear about the abuse of the children, and it's not sex. It was total abuse of children, right? But nobody goes above that. They don't go a little bit higher and talk about it, and so nobody is talking about the social security systems, or the security, what do you call, social systems, right? Nobody's talking about the teachers that were involved, or maybe that you can say this is like a lower level, however you want to look at it. If we're talking about the financial coup at the top and where it came from and how we got here and how they just started to basically make everything crap for the American people, because American people, or any people, I should say, not just America, never read labels. We just would see what we wanted to see because marketing was in our face, and we saw the shiny objects and thought, oh, this looks really good. And we saw pictures on everything, and everything was colorful and all that other stuff. But tell you the truth, I never read a label. I didn't read any labels, and probably about 10 years ago. And then I started to think, okay, all right. So when was all this happening, right? In the meantime, you have school administrations, you have teachers out there flipping out, and then of course we had the whole pandemic, if you will, that came about, and that changed personalities left and right, and it was just becoming to the point that everything became so much chaos. There was so much chaos out there that people started to, in my mind, started to look at it and just say, I just want the tunnel vision. I don't want to see everything out there. What I'm saying to all you guys is we're coming into a really good time, and it's going to be happening, and shifts are going to be happening. And actually next week I think we'll probably be hearing some really good news, but we have to know where we came from to know what it is that we want and know where we're going. Obviously we got to take a look at what has happened to the children. We have to understand it. I'm not saying don't pay any attention to that. Yeah, they just use your I always used to say you have to absorb and excuse me, observe but don't absorb. And at this point in the game, I would have to say you have to do more observation, but go a little bit deeper, but not absorbing it all, but trying to put together the pieces of the puzzle. A lot of people try to do that for you out there on social media. A lot of people have confused you, and a lot of people have lied to you about stuff. Now we're starting to find out the ones we thought that were really good in telling us everything. We're just basically adding to the chaos, and we're going to see more of that. But just hang in there. Just hang in there a little bit longer, because it's not always going to be this way. Yeah, I'd have to say the rest of the year we're just going to be pulling out the weeds, right? And just deciding, okay, we're making our own decisions on our own self. But while you're out there grocery shopping, look at the bread. How many ingredients? Does it have 15, 20 ingredients? Do you even understand what is in bread? I've got someone out here in the chat that is basically saying, let me just see if I can highlight this. Everything is in plastic, right? Plastic is in everything. Yes, it is. The plastic was a big part of a lot of things, and that's just like another whole avenue to go, right? And so where I'm kind of going with is that 9/11 blows up, and it blows up all the documents, right? And all the trails were blown up on 3.5 trillion. And so basically there's only a few people out there that really know what is actually happening. So then there was the great financial crisis, that is a bailout at $29 trillion. They didn't bail out us. They took our homes from us. They bailed out the billionaires. They bailed out the big corporations. It always comes back to a corporation. And you know, I don't know if you guys ever remember a particular show. It was Michael J. Fox when he first was starting out. I'm trying to think of the name of the show that he was on with Mallory. I think Mallory was his sister, right? He was a Republican, and his parents were the ones that are always protesting corporations. They were like the old hippies. Well, the old hippies knew something. Okay, going back to the baby boomers, they saw the writing on the wall, and they knew that if the corporations got in there and took over everything. I didn't pay any attention to that, because at that point in time in my life, I'm thinking I want to go work for a big corporation. What I was basically doing is, if I can, kind of brag a little bit about this, I was the only female that was in all these meetings at the time that I was doing what I was doing. And, I was keeping up with my education. I was keeping up on the technology, and I was doing so much. I was just like running, 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 all for corp, not knowing what what companies that was being dissected and why they were being dissected. Now I'm retired. I can look back at it and just go, holy shit, I can see the writing on the wall. But I couldn't because I was right in there, right? I was right in there. So just see what else she has on here. In 2019, she said that they were going, the Trump executive orders in the Fed repo market in 2019 was a reset to consolidate the financial corporation. So the Trump administration knew about this, and they were kind of writing out all these executive orders to protect the people, or not allow the corporations to be able to break down things. So if you go back to what I was saying in the beginning, in 1995, there was only 3,500. I think there was only 3,500 billionaires at that time, and that's because in the corporate equity arena. Let me clarify that, in the corporate equity arena. And the reason for that is they had a lot of restrictions around private equity. You had to be a small company. You had to be under a certain amount of employees. They had all these rules and regulations. Well, if I go back to here where she's talking about the Clintons in 1993 removed a lot of those regulations and opened it up a la carte, which meant that if I owned a business, I could be over 100 people, which means private equity. You're selling out something, they're buying you up, they're making something much bigger of whatever product that you had, and away we go, right? And so that's basically what was actually happening. All right, so I want to go back to 2019 because there's more there. In 2019, Jeffrey Epstein responded. Okay, is reported dead. I should wear my glasses. So Jeffrey Epstein is reported dead in August 10th of 2019. So 2019 is also the time that the Trump executive orders were out there. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in July 6th. So he only had about a month, and then he died, right? And then what else happened in 2021 2020 to 2021? There was Operation Warp Speed, if any of you recall this. There was also the Jedi 2.0 contracts. There was 5.0 trillion injections by the Fed. There was the Main Street market. Shares shifted to Wall Street. And so that's as far as this chart goes. So as you can see, it was basically a coup that was set up by design, and it goes all the way back from 1990, where basically, and this is where Catherine Fritz comes in. If you guys don't know who she is, I'll show you in a minute. I recommend, if you're really interested, if a lot of people care, a lot of people don't care about this type of data. To me, I find it very interesting, and I hope that you don't mind me sharing this with you. Again, these are all the billionaires, and let's see what we have here. Let me see what I have here. It just looks like it's doing something right here. I don't know what it's doing here, but all right. I know I'm having problems with this internet, and like I said, I'm working on it. But I'm probably gonna, if I can't get this thing to play nice, I think I'm just going to. So it's the Solari report, SOLARI. You can find them out on Telegram. I recommend that you get educated on it. And, if you really want to know, especially if you're younger and you want to know about the financial system, where we were and where we're going to, it's going to be very exciting. Nothing is going to be the same. Let me just end this here and stop sharing this and just come back to you guys and just make one thing very clear. What we know today is not going to affect anything of where we're going in the future. And this is the exciting thing that's actually happening right now. And I hope that you guys appreciate this. I'm going to bring you back a part 2 when after I get a hold of my cable company or internet cable company, whatever you want to call it, and get things straightened out here, because I am just not feeling like you guys can even see me. Can you see me? Give me a thumbs up. Let me know. Just wanted to say, just give you that bit of information. I just felt so strong about it. I wanted to share it with you. There will be more information coming out about this. And, yeah, I think it's really important to know this stuff and to make sure that you are being aware of what you're putting in your body in the near future. Okay, thank